for the last month, bringing all this data together. Good. And then obviously as a climate change event, we have to remind you to use recycling bins. Right. One of the crucial things about today, a couple of you have asked, we have set these teams up quite explicitly where we have split them up from people that you know. And the reason for that is you will all have probably your pet subject you want to look at. We salute you for bringing your pet subjects with you, but actually we want to create some really interesting teams. So one of the things about the agenda, as you'll see in a minute, is that we have a team building exercise straight after this to get you functioning as teams, because you won't know anybody in your team, which is a wonderful thing, so it'd be really interesting to see what happens. But crucially, as part of that, we want to make this a very collaborative space, safe space, and that's one of the reasons for the exercise afterwards. Is it's all about cooperating with each other and making the best of what you've got in front of you for the next 36 hours. Okay. We absolutely want you guys to tweet, Facebook, Instagram, go for it. The more noise you make about this, if you're enjoying it, please put it out there. That's the hashtag TCEH20. And I should then also say, if anybody, I just want to check whether anybody has any issues with this, but it is worth bearing in mind that some of the stuff, particularly me right now, but also some of the other stuff, is going to be live streamed. There will be people coming around wanting to talk to you, take photos of you working in your teams. If you have a problem with that, say at the time, but basically be aware there are going to be people floating around, potentially wanting to do interviews with you and understand how you're enjoying it and what you're finding, that sort of thing. It's worth saying that the presentations tomorrow evening will not be live streamed. The nature of it is that some of the stuff that you will probably find in the data is relatively sensitive, which is why you've all been given secure laptops today. We will record the presentations for posterity, but we are sensitive to them going straight out unedited. So, the crucial bit of today for you guys is that we have a massive support team in the background for you, and anybody that's wearing a blue lanyard, 3 guys at the back, really obvious, a couple of guys over there, John, anybody wearing a blue lanyard is support for you guys doing the hackathon, and the support comes in a variety of guises. So the DevOps guys are probably going to be hard at it, because if you've got any IT issues at all, they're going to support you. If you can't get into the platform, if you can't find the data, and then you've got the data science and data engineering guys supporting you in understanding what's going on in the data, and then we have some subject matter experts floating around to help you understand what the data is. Okay, so anybody with a blue lanyard, just ask. Okay. Right, I'm going to crack on with the. Oh, thanks, Scott. So the agenda. Do you want to take it back to number 8 for me, please, buddy? Thank you. So the agenda today, very quickly, there's going to be 3 welcome talks. Then we have a team building session. Delighted that Neil and Lauren from Comedy Store Players are going to be doing the team building session. Then we start the hackathon at 11:30, and it kind of finishes at 9. It kind of depends when you want to go home. We reopen again at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. we're closing the work, if you like, at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and the presentations begin here on stage, and then we'll do a prize giving at 7:30 tomorrow night, and we're all finished by 8. Or is that all right? So that's the commitment we're making to you, and we hope you can make to us in coming for the 2 days. Should be really fun. Really looking forward to it. And with that, what I'd like to do now is we're going to set the scene for you so that you understand climate change. And I have to say, I'm absolutely delighted to have Baroness Worthington here from the House of Lords, who has been a climate change champion for 25 years and is very much leading COP26 in Glasgow in November. So, Bryony, welcome to the stage. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. It's great to be here. Does this all happen automatically, Dan? Do I have to? Oh, there you go. Yes, I should just say a word of background. I am in the House of Lords, but I'm Bryony, not Baroness Worthington. And Dan and I know each other for more than 25 years, 30 years, so hence my being here. But I have spent my career on working on the climate challenge in a variety of different roles. And I've always felt that everything we do had to be informed by data. And I have kind of tried to pursue the ways in which you can use data to get the most impact from understanding that you get from data, and then using data to advance really important policies and legislation that help drive change in the real world. So I'm thrilled to be here today because I think the bringing together of this unique set of data and all of these minds today will really, I'm sure, inspire you all to create the most amazing, useful tools. I wanted to just give a few minutes of introduction so that you have some sort of policy and political context for this work. And you probably don't need to be told that we really are in a state of emergency on climate change. The real metric that we need to watch is the concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And that's the most robust data set. It's the one with the least error bars in it. And the data there tells us that we are into an exponential curve of a problem. Not only are the concentrations rising, but the rate at which they're rising is also rising. So, it's pretty terrifying. And this is, both in terms of CO2, but also, importantly, other gases like methane. So, how did we get here to this rising concentration of greenhouse gases? Well, I like a good Sankey diagram. It's relatively old. I think it's 2015 data, but it just helps you break down. This on the left, you've got the sources of the emissions, and then the gases in terms of their relative priority on the right-hand side. So it's clearly mostly a CO2 problem, and it's mostly an energy problem. And within energy, it's really 3 fuels: oil, coal, and gas. And they're being used for a variety of services that provide us with this wonderful life that we all live. So, it's on one hand, it can be incredibly complicated because there's a ton of sectors, a ton of users of those primary energies. But on the other hand, it is quite simple. Get off oil, get off coal, get off gas, right? And that will be a big chunk of solving the problem. There's also land use change and what the relative emissions are from land. And that's a big source of both methane and nitrous oxide, the way we use land. That's a really important part of this because they're both very polluting gases. And then you've got a little bit of waste and other processes. So, but I think if you can keep that mind map of the sources in mind, that's a good, helpful guide. You probably know it already. I put this Sankey diagram up because this was from 1982 in the United States. The Energy Department put this out. And the red bar on the right-hand side, that is waste heat. So this is, inputs of primary energy, which takes a lot of effort to get out of the ground, process and produce. And what do we do with it? 2/3 of it goes up the chimney in waste heat. And if you read the text, it says, this is our primary energy use for a year in the US. But over that time, the sunlight falling on the US was 700 times the energy that we were currently using. So they knew then in 1982 that solar was clearly a viable alternative, but politics got in the way. So So what needs to happen? Essentially we've got to massively reduce global emissions, and it has to be global. It can't just be one country or one region. Even then, we're going to have a temperature overshoot. We're certainly going to breach 1.5 degrees, probably within the next 8 years. And then really we're going to have to see that temperature come back down to a stable position with negative emissions. So get to zero as fast as possible, and then use negative emissions to try and bring us back into stable position. And even then, there's still risks and error bars. So, we have to really focus on bending that curve in emissions quickly. why did we get here? I mentioned politics. It's a horribly political space, the climate space. I've been tracking it for 25 years. We have massive headwinds. We have lots of tailwinds in that technology is getting cheaper. We have supercomputers. We have brilliant tech people like you who are applying themselves to the problem. But the headwinds are that we have an incumbent fossil fuel industry that's had 100 years of development to get itself into a very, very powerful position. And they're not going to go just gently into the night. They're going to try and hold on to their status quo as long as possible and have been doing so for the last 20 years. So we're starting to see now new incumbents with power, tech industry, the clean energy industry, who are starting to get political purchase, but they're still pushing into quite a strong political headwind. The other tragedies are that from a political perspective, no one cares because it's a 30-year thing, and you have pain today for benefit tomorrow. That sounds bad. I don't want to do that. And it's the tragedy of the commons, so we have to all do it. No point UK decarbonising on its own if China doesn't, or if the US doesn't, or if Brazil doesn't. So politicians get scared about that kind of like, oh, I'm taking pain and not even winning. This is not good. And then there's the last one, which is tragedy of the ideology, which I'm increasingly getting frustrated with, is that there are a ton of people out there who believe in climate change and needing to be a priority, but they don't like this, they don't like that, they don't, can't do nuclear, we can't do CCS, we can't do energy from waste, we literally can't do hydro. It's like, seriously, guys, we've got to get more of an engineering perspective on this. This is a massive challenge. We can't afford to be ruling things out. We need to be ruling things in. And the green ideology has to be shaken up a little bit, I think. So anyway, there are lots of ways around all of those tragedies. I won't bore you with them, but essentially coalitions of the willing and moral leadership is a really good way of getting around the tragedy of the commons. The tragedy of the horizon is you just have to scare people with immediate risks like air quality or health impacts or whatever it takes, essentially. And then the incumbents, I put this up because we are now in the place where we have got new incumbents. We've got new companies who are making money, serious money, from this tech revolution in energy. And they're starting to seed out their ideas into other sectors. I put this up because there's a ship there, and you're going to start to see renewable energy providers realizing that they can become fuel providers if they can just convert the electricity they have into a fuel, and that can start to then provide power for shipping or for other sources that need an electrofuel. So this new incumbency is coming, which is really exciting. What does this all mean for COP26? I think the UK has got a great story to tell, and maybe some of the data that you look at, if it's UK relevant, will be able to help tell that story, because we've decarbonised our power sector extraordinarily, swiftly and efficiently. There's been lessons learned along the way. It's not been perfect, but essentially we've got CO2 out of the power system really well by killing coal, and that's been a really strong message. So the UK has got a really good story to tell. It was partly accidental because we had North Sea gas, but it's also, we actively supported nuclear, we actively supported solar, we actively supported wind, and it's made a difference. And we will be able to do more. I mean, big challenge now is transport. From a UK perspective, that is the single biggest source of emissions. Land-based transport, the car journeys you take every day, what we all take every day, they're contributing the biggest source. It's a little bit harder to crack because there are fewer points of leverage. There's 3 million cars sold every year. There's 30 million cars on the road. Getting those to switch over and getting them into clean systems and using cars less, that's a really big challenge. How we deal with ag and getting our agricultural emissions down is another big one. How we use our land and how we can use our land to be really effective at being a sink of carbon and not a source. How we can get methane out of the livestock farming that we've got. How we can not use fertilizers that produce nitrous oxides. That's all a big challenge. No policies exist at all, really, to incentivize that. So how can we help government to make progress on that? Coal we've talked about, but we've got to get it out of steel manufacturing. We've got to get it out of all the industrial sources as well now that we've done it out of power. And then renewables need optimizing because, they're great. Many of them, though, are intermittent, and that causes challenges. From an engineering perspective, Dan was telling me just quite how challenging it can be at times. That's an issue, but tech can help. Certainly optimizing our balancing and grid systems is a definite plus. So, and then, I won't bore you, there's just stuff that needs to happen in the COP. We've got to kind of get the COP focused on real things. And then our civil society in all of this is quite often that there are people out there campaigning, trying to change the world, but they often don't even know that there are tools out there that they could find useful if they just had access. So if you do know anyone who's campaigning, or I was just saying, I think we should organise a kind of speed dating event where we get campaigners and tech people together so we can help create tools that will be used, because it's been an uneven fight. You've had these lovely people trying to save the world, often unfortunately kind of carrying these weird ideologies, but even aside from that, they often are under-resourced or underpowered and don't have the right tools or the right equipment or the right ways of communicating about the problem. So lots needs to be done there. And I always say to everyone that philanthropic money into the NGO space is really effective because it helps level up this playing field, and harnessing professional talents like all of your talents is going to be absolutely necessary. We've got to just spread this. So that's my scene setting, I think. There we go.
Thank you, Bryony. Thank you very much. So Bryony will be around for a bit, and she will be one of the judges tomorrow. So look forward to welcoming Bryony back. I'm going to hand over to Sophie. Sophie's from Ofgem, and she's going to set you the challenge. And she knows all this data sets intimately. So Sophie, over to you, and I will sort the slides out for you.
Hi, thank you so much for coming. For me, this is hugely exciting. So I'm Sophie. I head up a data and digital team in Ofgem. So Ofgem are the energy regulator. And so we regulate the electricity and gas market in GB. And so we look at even like from the wholesale markets to the networks to the retail side. We've got renewable schemes, and we've got some experts at the back who've come to show sort of what you can actually do with this data. So we have quite a wide range of information and knowledge that we hold. But why are we here? So you can't help but continually see in the headlines that there's climate change emergency, that there's so much destruction, that there's catastrophic events that are happening sort of almost like on a weekly, daily basis. And we've got the Extinction Rebellion who are raising awareness, and actually, well, what can we do as Ofgem, as government? How can we start making this information available and sort of having a proactive stance in this? So there is a huge amount of great work going on across government, and this is sort of my angle for this event. Within government, so we've got BEIS, so that is the Energy Industrial Strategy, Business Energy Industrial Strategy. We've got the Committee of Climate Change, obviously Ofgem, and then we also have our work with Catapult on the energy system modernisation. And everyone is sort of starting to tackle little bits and doing like great work, and all coming to a point of, well, how do we decarbonise the UK? But actually, how do we start to bring this all together? So people are looking at data governance, data ethics. We're all taking different parts of the system. But actually, how do we really leverage what we have to meet in the middle to decarbonise the UK? And as Ofgem, the reason why this has come about is because we are at a definite tipping point, although I'm a bit, don't know whether I should actually use those words. We have, as Ofgem, the remit to request this data. This event has come about, and we've never had all of this data before. We've got so much information, but we also have a way to securely store this data. So Ofgem, in partnership with Valtech, so this is why this has all come about, have been working in the last couple of years to build like a cloud-based platform to securely store all of this information and to make it accessible. And for my own vision is we don't want this just to be held here. I want, the data scientists, analysts, engineers, people that can drive policy, can understand sort of how all of this data could be mashed together, and to get real great insight, to have access to this, and to do as much as we possibly can to decarbonise the UK, not just by 2050, but how can we do it within 5 years? I don't want to hear that it can't be done. What I want to understand is, give me a way to do this. And so we have our modernisation of our cloud platforms. We have our remit to request data, but also we've had some amazing people on board. So I don't know where, Anushka at the back, who's been helping me sort of over the last couple of months engage with so many different industry bodies, sort of pulling all of this data sets in. And we've got a fabulous tech team as well. So John, DevOps guys as well. Sort of we've now landed at this crunch point where we've got all of these different factors and we actually have the ability to make this open. And I really hope that this isn't going to be the only hackathon. I want more in future. I hope to see you guys again to actually come and access different data sets, whether it's on decarb, whatever else, but actually it's to make it open and accessible. So I just really want to reiterate, this is a really special moment, that this data has never been brought together before, and that this is the first time that anyone has seen this all together. So really do make the most of it. If you've got any questions, if you get stuck, do come and ask. I'm not going to steal too much of like John's thunder, but these are the kind of data sets that we've got in the platform. So this is not just from government departments, but from industry bodies, sort of private sector, all sorts that we've got actually in-house. So what kind of questions do we want to answer? This all stemmed from like the big question of how do we decarbonise the UK? How do we meet our net zero targets faster than otherwise we've been set? And this is not just a technical challenge, but how do we change social behaviours? How do we get better engagement from the UK? And we're focusing on the UK for now, because this was like a smaller, let's try the UK and then we can go global. So I won't run through all of these, but as I mentioned, how can we decarbonise the UK faster? How could we do it in 5, 10, 15 years? And for example, what renewable sources do we need within each different region, not just to decarbonise, but how do we minimise the impact on biodiversity? There's a huge amount of other different data sets open and available. Utilise them. So do smart meters really reduce energy demand? And which regions do we need to focus on to drive the uptake? How do we increase the rollout? And actually, is there a shift with engagement? Do we see more switching in the areas that do have smart meters? Is there a better understanding of energy? And then how can we predict the uptake of electric vehicles? I mean, with electric vehicles, to decarbonise, we need to reduce the carbon footprint of our transport sector, but then we also need flexibility on the network to make sure that people have the right charging points and then we can get energy to those different areas. Imagine it's a bank holiday, people going to the Lake District and no charging points there. How do we manage the system in those kind of events? And quite a big one, can we force social change but without regulation? Are there things that we can start to nudge in the right direction? So they're definitely not limited to those hypotheses. Please go nuts. We have so much data. Let your imagination go wild. I'm going to hand over to John now to run through the data. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's John Downing. I will be leading you through the kind of tech side today, and so if you have problems, come to me or post on Slack and I can hopefully guide you in the right directions. I've just got 5 minutes now, but I'll make these slides available. Thanks, Dan. You can go to the next one. Thanks. So just thinking about what a hackathon is, really you have to understand the problem. You're going to have to work in your teams to sketch and decide something. You probably want to use the data that we have or other data sets to prototype and validate. This is all from Google's design sprint thinking. You might be familiar with it. This is normally done over a week. You have less than 2 days. So consider your problem and work quickly, don't get caught out. Valtech also has some ideas around that. And in terms of persuading the judges at the end of the day that your idea is the best, let's not overwhelm people just with data. It is a supporting part of the overall argument, so think about users, think about what your plot is or your experience and your actors or your customers or your consumers. And as Dan said earlier, there'll be very diverse teams, not just teams of data scientists and teams of UX or other analysts, so you'll be mixed up together, and hopefully kind of thinking about that can help you structure your idea in something that you can then pitch at the end of the day. Just before we start, has everyone signed an NDA? Yes, nodding heads, okay, good. Just on this NDA, so it's an agreement between yourselves and Ofgem, who are holding the data, and it restricts you to looking at this data and holding it confidential, because we have agreements from the data providers that we will hold insights and this data confidentially. It says no disclosure unless required by law. And really this is on the data itself and not on the hackathon in general. So we are encouraging people to think about their ideas and spread their ideas. Obviously we don't want them to spread the insights that they've generated from confidential data without agreeing or kind of taking that information with data providers' consent out to the public. It does not cover any public data that you analyze, and I'll talk you through a bit of what's available in that space as well. Just on ways of working, so everyone has been given a Surface Pro, and hopefully a username and password to log into that Surface Pro. On this Surface Pro, you can only connect to the Hackathon Wi-Fi. Nothing else will come up. Laptops should not leave the Valtech office, so when you go at the end of today, please drop them at reception and then pick them up tomorrow morning. And we borrowed 100 of them from Microsoft, so be careful with them. We don't want to give them back, you know, one too few or damaged laptops. With your Surface Pro, you will be connecting to a virtual machine. This has a different username and password, and you can connect using the IP that's on your kind of cheat sheets. There's one virtual machine per Surface Pro. That was the easiest way to do it. And every virtual machine connects to a blob storage which has data. And you'll be copying that data down to your virtual machine and then looking at it. And there are some instructions on your sheets and also some instructions on your virtual machines. Inside the virtual machine is a ton of data science tools provided by Microsoft. We're thinking most people will use Python or R, but there are also, I think, Power BI's installed and some other stuff. So have a root around, see what works for you. Obviously, if you're not super technical, you know, spend some time exploring or get our engineers or our data scientists on board to kind of help you out or work within your team as well. So this is what it kind of looks like, the overall setup. The Valtech Wi-Fi is here, and then just connect with this password. You'll go into the virtual machine, and then you'll go to your storage account to download stuff. It's all on your worksheets. In terms of the data, I'm going to run out of time. But just to say, there's a lot of very smart people here. Some of these people have provided data. If you want to talk to them, we've got a Slack channel, but also, you know, talk in person too. That's allowed. And I'll just run through which data sets are in the VMs at the moment. So there's an Ofgem data set. Can anyone from Ofgem put your hands up? Okay, great. So these guys at the back know about this data set. And I'll send these slides around so you can all look at the slides and read a bit more information. So each one has a description. And as well, if you click on this link at the top here, this will take you to our open Confluence site, and you can look at more information there as well. So Met Office, weather data. Do we have anyone from the Met Office? Yep. Okay. Do you just want to say your name, just so people? Phil Hodge. Great. Oh, sorry. Oh no, here we go. Bays. Anyone from Bays? Nope, not today, or not turned up yet. So Ordnance Survey, they haven't come today, but they've got mapping data in the platform for us as well. Electrolink, Paul's over here from Electrolink, and he can help you understand this data. Both Electrolink and Elexon are complex data sets, and there's actually a lot of it. Do we have anyone from Elexon? Jeremy? Jeremy's over here. Smart DCC have provided some smart meter data. Do we have anyone from Smart DCC? Great. Sorry, what's your name? Helen. Okay. And Civil Aviation Authority have provided data, and I don't think there's anyone from them. No. And then Comparison Tech have also provided data on electric vehicles as well. And that's all in our platform. Obviously, other platforms exist. There's a list here. If you click on that link, you can look at all of these links. And at the moment, these are on any other connection. Unfortunately, we're still waiting on our infrastructure providers to set up the guest Wi-Fi for you guys. There's a slight security concern there. So when that's set up, I'll share the password with you. At the moment, you'll have to connect to a 4G connection for these. And if there's issues with that, we can help you with 4G connections as well. Comms is on Slack. If you haven't signed up to the Slack link, I can distribute that too. It's on some of the welcome emails. And there's various channels. So I think there's a science channel and a tech issues channel and a general channel. Please set up your own team channels as well, so you can talk amongst your teams. What could go wrong? Lost information. It's a complex space. You know, struggling to understand data. I need more memory on my VM. I can't process data. I need libraries that aren't installed. Hopefully these are all challenges we can deal with over the next couple of days. Please speak to someone and raise your hand either on Slack or just come find me and I can point you in the right direction. Yeah, let's see where it goes. So I'm really out of time now, so we'll leave questions and just come find me. And I think we've got team building, so thank you.
Thank you, John. So as you guys probably realise, this is going to be a very intense 36 hours, okay? And there is a very big support team with the blue lanyards around, so please do ask. We will move as quickly as we can to help you. So what we're going to do now is you want to do number 2 for me, buddy? Thank you. We are going to do a team building exercise. You should have all been given a number when you came in for a team number, which will stand you in good stead for this next exercise. The idea here is that this is a bit light-hearted, a bit of fun, get you going first thing in the morning before you start the work proper. It gives me great pleasure, because I've known Neil a long time, to welcome on stage Comedy Store players Neil Malarkey, thank you very much, and Lauren Fleming. And it's all yours, guys. Over to you.
Francisco.
What's your name, madam? Kate, come down here, please. Where's that
Kate.
we had earlier?
Yeah.
Do we have that handheld? No, we'll repeat it. So what was the first name? Francisco. Here you go. Okay, because we don't have every team yet, but we'll do it. We'll do it in real time. So team 1, who else is here? So we have team 1 of 2 people.
So team 1 is going to rock. Look at the diversity of the demographic there. So absolutely marvelous stuff. So it may be Dan has to realign the teams. So Kate, who's in team 2?
Okay. Ooh.
Okay, who knows they're in team 2? Maybe somebody does already. You might know already. How did you get these numbers or fail to get them? I've seen somebody with a post-it. You just came in too early. You're from the Cabinet Office, aren't you? What are you doing here? Actually, you've got the money, you've got the power, I presume. You don't know which team you're in, do you? What's your name? Brendan. You're in Team 2? Brendan, okay. Come down here, Brendan. Come on, let's give Brendan a round of applause, okay. So who else is in Team 2?
We've got an Alex Reed.
Alex Reed, yo, where is she?
He is
yes.
here.
Okay, Alex Reed, go join Brendan next. Let's give them kind of a round of applause each time. Let's do it. Okay, who else is in Team 2?
That's it for Team 2.
Okay, that's it for Team 2. Okay, good. Well, there we are. That's exciting. So do we have anybody from Team 3 here? Okay, Carmel, I think it is. That's right, Carmel. So Carmel, who's in Team 3? And the lady in blue. So who else is in Team 3?
So we've got a Ben Butterworth, we've got Jeremy Kaplan, and then a Rebecca Carter. Is that?
Okay, up you come. Let's join
Great,
these
round of
people.
applause for
Hooray.
these guys.
So these teams of 10 turned out to be teams of 2. But that may be all the more exciting from a data point of view. We do live in a binary world. Hooray! Is this Jeremy? Hi,
you've got
Jeremy.
4
Okay.
actually. That's
so
amazing.
hello.
You're in the lead.
It's all very exciting. So team 3. Ben Melling. Okay, up you come.
Ben.
So who's
Round
in
of
Team
applause for
4?
Ben. Yeah.
One second. So Team 4 we have. Can you see that Team 4?
Well, anybody know they're in Team 4? Okay, is it Anushka? Sabrina, okay. Where was Anushka? She was here earlier. No, she's run away. Okay, Sabrina, come down here. Who else is in Team 4 that you know of? So, sorry, are you in Team 4? Okay, 4.
Oh, great.
Julian? Great.
Round of applause for Julian.
Great. There we go. It's all going